everybody, what's up? Welcome to Deep Dive. This is Sunday, Father's Day. Pastor Allen just did his message called Copy That.
Copy that.
I had to remember that. Copy That.
Copy that.
Pretty great Sunday. So we're going to break it down during Deep Dive. Thanks for joining us. Pastor, Dad.
Yeah. Happy Father's Day.
Happy Father's Day.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'm glad that you were preaching on Father's Day. I like it when you preach on Father's Day, by the way.
Well, good.
We don't have like a comedian who's drinking Red Bull.
Dear Lord.
We had a couple guys like, we're going to go. I think one guy came in, pounded like 3 Red Bulls between each service, and then came out on fire. And I'm like,
I guess.
I'm glad that we are, we're just going to get a message. So I really enjoyed your message. You hit on so many things.
I did.
Which I thought was super important, super valuable.
Right.
But I really loved your opening too. You're talking about there is an attack, and you and I have talked about this on men in this culture. You know,
and this is not just my opinion.
Yeah.
You have secular.
Yeah.
You have secular authors who are now starting to address these issues.
Yeah.
One of them has been, I believe it's Sassy. He was a senator, former senator for Nebraska.
Yeah.
He's now the head. He's now the one that's the president of the University of Florida. He's the one that kicked up a major fuss when they put him in.
Wow.
Because he's the one I think wrote a book about the vanishing American adult.
Wow.
And he talked about how and he's talking about some of the values and responsibilities. And
do you think the enemy? I mean, we've talked about this as a church, and Mom talks about this. It's like God has a spiritual head of the household, which is the man.
Right.
Why is that? Why do people hate saying that sometimes?
Well, I think people have a problem with authority, and they have a problem with godly authority.
Yeah.
And they always want to cite those examples of horrible people.
Yeah.
But it's like, no, the vast majority, that's the way God designed it.
Yeah.
And it works that way. I think what caught people was when I said, hey, if Joy was injured confronting an intruder, that just sounds wrong.
Yeah.
You wouldn't want that.
The story was like, if you were
I'm in the closet praying and I said, hey, honey, there's an intruder, go deal with it.
Go check.
Yeah.
The church would walk out.
Oh, they would. And I wouldn't blame them. I would.
Yeah, I know. It's one of those things where men are expected to have strength, and we are in a position of strength and authority. And it's a lot. I think I say a lot. Men have abused it, and that's wrong.
Yes.
But I think what godly authority looks when it's done right in the way that's Christ-like, it's the healthiest thing.
Yes, I agree. And that's, man's errors don't do away with God's plan. And so, the God's plan is still in effect. And we just have to learn how to work that plan better.
Yeah.
I think I told your mother one time, hey, you're supposed to submit to me. That didn't work well, But here's the thing. In terms of our home, I'm the head of the home. But you know this, your mother gets pretty much anything she wants.
Yeah.
I mean, she didn't have to fight me for it. She didn't have to push me for it. And she looks to me to provide leadership. But man, I look anything I can do to bless her.
Mom has said this before. It's so much safer to be in a position where where you're an authority. And it's not popular at women's meetings, but Mom will say this. She loves submitting, and she's like, my job is to be a helper to you. And that's something that even plays out on staff. She's not in charge of anybody.
Right.
We don't call her pastor.
No.
She really didn't have a place of authority in this.
So
a hierarchical.
So the Baptists wouldn't kick us out?
John MacArthur would like it.
John MacArthur wouldn't like her.
He would like it. But yes, she's not like a pastor. She's not in charge. No. She's not running things. But at the same time, she's submissive.
But she's such a voice too.
Yeah, absolutely.
She's such a voice. And I think because people sense that she's not trying to take authority, I think they're comfortable with her relationship. And even men who don't like quote unquote women preachers, I've watched them wipe tears out of their eyes when she's speaking.
Yeah.
Because she's a handmaiden of the Lord.
Yeah.
And she's anointed.
I think too, as growing up, I can say this, like I knew that you were the head of the household. Like I knew you were the final word.
Right.
And I knew Mom respected that. But at the same time, you used to always say, hey, look, I love your mother more than I love you.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, you were.
Oh, that goes over big. Because it's like, I chose her.
Yes,
we had you.
I literally just had that conversation with Kylie and Gracie.
That's good.
Because one of my children was not treating my wife right.
Not good.
And I remember when we treated mom right, you jumped on us.
When you treated mom wrong.
When I treated mom wrong, you would jump on us. Like, it was like.
Not physically.
Yeah, not physically.
Not physically.
No. But if
that.
I wanted to see you upset, treat mom wrong. But that also spoke a message to us.
Right.
It's like, hey, I'm the head, but don't you even think about treating her wrong.
No.
And I think we had a healthy relationship with what those boundaries look like.
Right. Yeah. The Bible talks about men are to love their wives as Christ loved the church. And it said that we're to give honor to the wife as unto a weaker vessel. And I realize women don't like hearing, I'm a weaker vessel. It says as to a weaker vessel. Because your mother is stronger than train smoke.
Yeah.
I mean, she's strong.
Yeah.
And she's got strong will. She's strong spiritually.
Yeah.
But we're not battling for leadership.
Yeah.
We're not battling. And very much, now I don't make major decisions without talking to your mom. I tried that once. That was North Carolina.
Really?
Yes. I overrode her. I said, we're going, and she's like, I don't feel good about this, and I overrode her. And I didn't do it again.
What does that look like so when you're praying about something, are you asking the Lord, hey, talk to Joy too? Or how does that look like for you making big decisions?
If it involves her, then yes, I'm looking for confirmation. The Lord would confirm it to her. And because I'm very blessed to have a wife who prays, that's someone I can trust.
Yeah. Is there something wrong?
No, I was just saying you can lift your mic up.
Okay.
How's mine? Is it good?
That's wrong.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah,
This is wrong. This is dropping.
We take a
I didn't want that light.
We take a timeout.
That light because it already fell.
Yeah. Okay. All right. There we go. All right.
Mad boy.
Okay. Ready? I loved the example you used, but you're talking about as well toxic masculinity versus this idea of toxic masculinity versus what would be the opposite of that? Would be
I think godly strength.
Yeah, or like this gender fluid, this kind of attack on men, then versus toxic masculinity. We've ended up with these two very loud voices.
Yeah, but they're not godly voices.
Yeah,
and this is where you hope people have the wisdom to go, that's not working.
Yeah,
I'm so sad to see the deception that's now surrounding gender, where people feel that gender is fluid and however I feel is how I am. That's so confusing.
Right.
And we haven't seen the long term of that.
Right.
But I don't think the long term of that is going to be good.
Yeah. You mentioned God created man and woman.
Man and woman.
I mean, the Bible's so clear
clear.
There are two distinct and there are two different roles for those.
Right.
And people hate it, and I'm sure people will watch this and be upset, and you can be, but it's like, but look at what's happening right now. You look at young men, and you brought this up, and you and I have talked about this. Right now, I feel like young males and men in general, I would say, are some of the most struggling individuals in America.
4 times?
Yes.
More likely to commit suicide?
That's huge.
That is huge. And the thing about it is, you got people screaming about all this gender fluidity, and you got the LGBT crowd, and they're screaming.
Yeah.
And I don't hate these people, but I'm asking them, what makes you think this is working?
Right.
As we look at what's going on, people are talking about a mental health crisis. It's like, do we think that what they're proposing is working? And we haven't, and all the data freaks haven't seen the data on all these transgender decisions down the road.
Right.
It's like, what's going to happen 10, 20 years from now?
Yeah.
We're playing for such a short term. It's, like I said, if someone's in the middle of trying to transition, I don't hate any of these folks.
Right.
But I'm just thinking it's causing confusion because that's not the way God intended it.
And there's been a hate towards men in general.
Yes.
that has
and
been...
that's straight out. That's straight from the enemy.
Yeah.
In the 50s and 60s, Matt, if you watch television, you would see the father role was presented completely different. I grew up and I remember watching a show called My Three Sons. The father was a wise, single dad, lost his wife, and he was a widower.
Right.
And the father was a wise, single man that had answers. Leave It to Beaver, father had answers. What was one? Mike,
the Andy Griffin Show.
Andy Griffin Show. The fathers had wisdom. Yeah, Andy Griffin, perfect. That's my neck of the woods. Yeah. And the fathers had wisdom. The fathers dealt well with situations, and then it began to shift. And then it started shifting with All in the Family. You had Archie Bunker, and how they began to really mock that generation and mock that type of masculinity. I don't think Al Bundy was a great example of a godly, father. And so the fathers begin to be the stupid ones.
Yeah.
And the kids were smarter, and the wife was always smarter.
Right.
And so it begins to take fathers down. And so now you've got young men, they're not even pursuing marriage anymore. You've got more men living at home in the 20s than you do women living at home.
Yeah, it's the relationship wise, they're not even in the game anymore.
Not even pursuing.
And they're saying, and you have all these...
pornography's
Yeah.
Pornography's a part of that.
Yep.
But again, we're sending the wrong messages to our men.
What do you think the message God has for young men in this time and age who are not a father? I know it's Father's Day, but...
The message is God has a plan for them. The message is that they would be, and I like what Paul said, watch, stand fast in the faith. Act like men, be courageous, be strong. Let all you think, man, if you just live by that, you're going to be a good man.
Yeah.
I mean, you're going to be a good man, but having some strength, having some courage. I don't think you have to walk in, if you're married, I don't think you have to walk into your house and go, bless God, I'm the man of the house. I think you can live that way as an example.
I like how you're talking about that. And I love that scripture, 1 Corinthians. I don't know if I've ever seen that.
That is a great scripture.
Was it quit yourselves like men?
Yeah. The King James says quit like men. Other translations read acquit yourselves like men, behave like men.
Yeah. But then at the end it says do all things in love.
In love. There you go. That takes out the toxicity.
Yeah.
Toxicity?
Toxicity. I think that's a word.
That's a word.
But yeah, I think that's the thing we miss sometimes is that you have all these brave, strong, confident men,
right?
But they're not doing everything in love,
right?
That's a pretty high standard.
Yeah, doing things in love takes the jerkiness out.
Yeah,
if you're doing it in love, you're not going to be a jerk.
Yeah, because you can be the ruler of a household, you can be an authority, and still be love.
And here's the deal: biblical masculinity is not misogynistic.
Yeah,
biblical masculinity is biblistic. Biblistic. How about that? Biblistic.
Biblistic.
It's Biblistic.
Yeah.
I just made that up. It's a made up word.
I think,
but biblical masculinity is not a jerk. It's not demeaning. It's doing things in love. You kidding me?
I think people don't have that perception. They miss parts of the Bible, like man will have the household, and people get all upset. It's
women submit. Was the
famous line.
The big famous line.
Yeah.
And yet. Men, love your wives as Christ loved the church. That's the first thing.
And he does
treat your wife as honorable.
And Paul does not have that same. Does not say women love your husbands like Christ loves the church.
Actually, one, and I'm trying to think of one. He said, "And let the wife see that she respects her husband."
It's like, hey man, your job is to love.
Yeah.
And I think if you look at Jesus, he was the ultimate example.
Totally.
You've seen me, you've seen the Father.
Right.
He was the ultimate example of Christian masculinity.
Totally.
And he was loving and caring and kind, strong when he needed to be strong, but loving and caring and kind in every single way.
Yeah, absolutely.
You can't look at him and say he was awful to people. He treated people well. He talked to people no one else would talk to.
Well, and he treated women with great respect.
Yes.
No one else did. Not in that day. He treated women much differently than the people of that day.
Yeah, he treated them far better.
Yeah. Far better.
And gave them respect and honor,
Absolutely.
even women who we might not even give respect and honor in this day.
Even ladies who had a troubled past.
Yeah, he didn't care. He treated them well.
Yeah,
that's great. I love the example, obviously, of Abraham and Isaac. That is the powerful story of.
That's a great story.
I mean, you're about to sacrifice your son for the Lord, and the faith that Abraham had the whole time.
Yeah, you can see why he's called the father of our faith.
Yeah.
He really did have a faith. to leave his home. But like I said, I thought it was interesting because I read Bible scholar says that they think it took Abraham 5 years to leave.
Well, even too, you think about when God gave him some instructions on, hey, I need you to, by your seed that there'll be many generations. Yeah. He's like, well, I think the idea is to go with Hagar over here. Yeah, I mean, that was a gigantic mistake.
Yeah, it was huge.
I mean, it was huge. Some people might point to that as like all the problems of the Middle East nowadays go back to that moment, which I don't know if we can say that. It's not in the Bible. However, Abraham made gigantic bad moves.
I agree. Well, you try to take things into your own hand. Yeah.
But at the end of the day, the Lord still blessed his seed through him.
He did.
He was still close to the Lord, and the Lord was still able to use him through him. And I think I love that throughout your message of being an example, which I think is huge, is that.
Well, and wherever you are, man, I think this is sometimes people think of an example, and they may think of someone maybe who's just where they're not, in a realm that they're not. But the idea is wherever you are, you can get better. Yeah. Wherever you are, you can improve.
Yeah, I really love that point. And I think I would say this, I'm not trying to butter this up for the pod.
Okay.
I really appreciate it because you were definitely an example to Christina, Michael, and I.
But I certainly wasn't perfect.
No, not perfect, but definitely an example. We went to church.
Right.
I watched you serve.
Right.
I watched you give. Yeah. I watched you put God first.
Right.
The conversations we had were along those lines.
Yes.
And I feel like that instilled in all three of us who are still following the Lord.
Yeah.
We're still involved. All of us are serving in some place and capacity. I feel like we saw that in you and Mom.
Yeah.
We watched you pray. We watched this. And I've even read reports where if the dad goes to church, the kids are 70% more likely
to follow.
If just the mom goes to church and the dad doesn't, it's almost as if neither of them go to church as far as long-term kid going to church. So the father's going to church, and I thought you brought up today, you're here at church on Father's Day.
Good for you.
That's one of the best examples we can do.
No kidding. It's and the thing about it is there's no perfect family, there's no perfect father.
Right.
But, I think the thing that I was thinking, Mom and I were talking years ago about, we were coming home from a trip, and for some reason I was thinking about some of the things I hadn't done and experiences I hadn't given you kids. And I caught myself in the middle of it. And I said, I looked at Joy and I said, but I said, we're rich. I said, all three of our children are saved. I said, all three, Micah wasn't married at the time. I said, they have spouses who are saved. I said, I feel like just the fact that all of you guys are saved, I feel like that's the biggest win I could ever hope for. And then to see you follow God, well, that's second. But to have you saved and know where you'll spend eternity, can't beat that.
Because you think sometimes culture can definitely put pressure, even in a good way, of like, you're saving for college. We got to have a car. And there's all these milestones that dads have.
Experiences. If you remember, and I laugh about not being the best dad, I wouldn't go to Disney World.
No.
I think it was your mother and your grandmother that took you to Disney World, and I wasn't going.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to go.
Yeah.
And so
you knew that was not going to be a good experience.
Yeah. The whole time that you guys are there, you're like, Dad would hate this.
Yeah. Totally.
Lines, heat, and crowds.
Yeah.
I'm like, nope, I'm out.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And so I look at myself, and in some respects, I really wasn't a great dad in certain areas. I didn't do a great job in certain areas. But that's the thing about it is, and that's what it seems like the enemy pushes fathers on what they don't do.
Yeah.
And instead of, hey, if you've been a godly example, if you planted good seeds in your kids, if you continue to live for God, you're a good dad.
You said something I really appreciated, and I think it needs to be heard and said again. You said you got to put God first, not family first.
Yeah.
And it's so easy to even a lot Christian dads who are quote unquote great dads.
Yeah.
If you put your family before the Lord.
Yeah.
How did that look like for you?
That's a good question. I think it's going to look different in different families.
Yeah.
But we made decisions based on our call to serve God.
Yeah.
And so we were, even before we were pastors, we said that we are going to be involved in church, that we are going to be a family that is not going to put athletics or other extracurriculars first.
We didn't do a lot of extracurriculars as a family.
No, we didn't. And some parents will look at me and go, well, you didn't create great memories and great experiences from. I said, yeah, but if my children are saved and going to heaven, then I've done as good as I've done the big thing. I got the big rock.
Yeah.
And with that, and obviously there are great parents who've done a great job and live for God, and some of their kids aren't saved. But my thing is keep believing.
Yeah.
Keep believing for them. But to me, how we gauge success, hey, it's again, I'm playing for the long run.
Yeah. And I remember like we made decisions like, hey, we're not going to go do that sport.
Right.
It's on a Sunday.
Right.
Hey, this is going to take much time.
True,
hey,
true.
Dad serves. Like he's not going to do.
Right.
You definitely weren't child centric.
No.
And I think.
No, we weren't.
And I think at the time for me and Christina, definitely me and Christina, because we were the oldest, and we kind of ganged up on Michael. Sorry, Michael. Sorry, not sorry.
Sorry.
But sometimes we saw other parents and families, and
Right.
it felt like everything revolved around the kids.
Right.
And I think we got a little bit like, well, why isn't it like that? Yeah. Looking back, though, I'm so grateful because I'm like, I would rather have a relationship with the Lord, and where we are now, I'm like,
Right.
Christina and I are both
Right.
spiritually in a place that's very different than some of those other people who were just so focused on their kids. The
Right.
kids were number one.
Right.
You're like, no, God's number one.
And people don't like they don't like to hear that. But I said it today, and I'm very serious about this. You cannot provide salvation for your children.
Yeah.
You can provide a great education. You can provide a great place to live. You can take them on all kinds of vacations. You can give them great experiences. You can give them a leg up in life, but you cannot provide their eternal salvation. And when it's all said and done, that's the most important thing.
And that's what dads are going to be judged for that.
Yeah.
I mean, if we're put in a position of authority, don't you think we'll be judged for that in a sense? I don't want to be harsh. I'm sorry.
Well, I think we're going to be responsible. The Bible said that we are responsible for the deeds done in the body. So all of us will stand before the judgment seat of Christ, not judged as sinners, but judged
Right.
for what we did
For him.
after becoming.
Yeah.
saved.
And people make mistakes, and you can get it right.
Hey, boy, you can.
Yeah.
And and for those dads out there that maybe didn't know the Lord
Yeah.
and then came to faith later,
Right.
boy, you can still pray for your kids. For those that did everything they could and their kids still went the wrong direction.
Yeah.
If you've done the best you could, then you can stand before the Lord and say, I've done the best I could.
Because, I mean, at the end of the day, we still have a free
Everyone
will.
every individual has a free will.
Yeah.
And so I feel unbelievably blessed to have all of you kids saved.
Yeah.
That's, but when I lie down at night, that's probably what gives me the most peace.
Well, I appreciate the heritage that you've poured into me and Christina and Michael. And I'm blessed because I feel like it's a heritage I can pass down to my girls as an example. And
you also had a real incredible mother who had a huge hand in this.
I think you comboed up, both of you, to do an incredible job.
We teamed up.
I mean, I look at myself in the mirror, I say,
Yeah.
thank you, Mom and Dad.
Thank you, Mom.
Thank you for this. This is, behold,
Yeah.
your son. But I'm super grateful and thankful, and
Thank you.
Love you. And
Love you.
Thank you for doing this for Father's Day.
Glad to do it.
I think it's encouragement. I think every dad can look and say where he got wrong. But I think even something that Mom said a while back ago, Mother's Day, the Lord makes up the difference.
He does. He does.
And I think that's a quick reminder.
That's what I'm talking about, that atmosphere of faith. Yeah. If you can sometimes you just have to put your children in God's hands.
Yeah.
And to go, I can't change this, I can't fix it, but I'm going to trust you for it.
Yeah. I'm going to believe you that you're going to make up the difference.
Believe you for
in my
the
life.
future. Right.
Because I think too, we as dads can also say we can't do it by ourselves.
No.
Like I can't be the best dad. I don't have it in me, but the Lord can make up the difference.
And my heart really goes out to single moms
Yeah.
who are raising kids without a male role model, which is why I feel like the church can partially fill in that gap.
Yeah.
And to single moms, I'm telling you out there, don't give up. You keep doing the best job you can. It's not an easy job, but the Lord can help you, and you can still raise good kids.
I love the call out to men that we have in the church who've served for years.
Yeah.
I was just talking to them backstage in children's ministry, and they were all like blown away, but also at the same time a realization that they themselves, like, there's a lot of us dudes, and they all know each other, and they've been friends with each other. Andy says he is opening a lawsuit against you.
Yeah, I'm about to say.
He was like, I did not play D1.
Yeah.
I was like, well, no, you did.
Did I give him D1?
You gave him D1.
Well, good.
I'm like, hey, take it.
Then I don't know him an apology. I just pumped him up.
Yeah, you just got pumped up. So we're lawyer up, Mr. Andy, if you're coming at us.
There you go.
So, but super grateful. Thank you, Padre, for everything. Love you. Happy Father's Day.
Love you.
Ciao.
Father's Day.